I'm not going to swear, but I am going to kick this doghouse down! 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 Down!
What they're doing in terms of their brand. They've got things like the St. James. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a little 50-watt full tube head that weighs 6 kilos. Like I carry this thing on the plane and put it under the seat. Like they've just evolved into this. I think they look at musicians and what they need and how they can make their lives better. Now they've got the Amp 3 and that sort of thing. But I just think Black Star is so diverse and unique and very adaptable. I use Black Star for black metal and thrash, and I can both make the same amp sound completely different for what I need it to do. But I think the most important thing is it just responds the way that I need it to. So
Yeah. But yeah, it's because like I was curious about that because like I said, I had never heard of that company. Like, of course, Marshall and Crank were the only ones that I at least knew of. I mean, everybody
yeah,
knows Marshall, but Crank's like not as known, but it's been out there. So yeah, I was really, really curious to hear about that Black Star connection right there because just never knew about that. It goes to
yeah.
show you that the more you know.
Well, there's a lot of bands using them now. The guys from Soilwork, Nervosa. It's like I said, in the last 10 years, I've definitely seen the brand really, really grow. But when I first found them, I hadn't heard of them, and it ended up being the amp that I chose, and I wouldn't change that.
Absolutely. Um, so kind of trickling back a little bit to the guitars and such, like guitars and whatnot. Like going back to what we were discussing about how it's amazing when people can shred and bring emotion out when it comes to lead play. Rhythm play, that's a whole other spectrum to really get into. Like I often say, in my opinion, the king of rhythm guitar is James Hetfield for the simple fact that like the downstrokes that he does, even though his picking technique's so bizarre where he picks like this, I don't know how he can do it and not feel awkward, but if it works, it works. But I always say him because like it's definitely between like he and Dave Mustaine as they were the creators of that like metal style of downstrokes, even though Ramones were the real pioneers of downstroke riffs, but bringing it into metal was a big deal from what I can remember hearing stories. But like, who would you say are like the five rhythm guitarists that kind of help shape you in terms of when you're like coming up with songs like, hey, check this out, I got this really cool riff.
Oof. That's really hard actually, because I feel like I've been focused more on lead guitarists. I think it'd have to stem back to probably my AC/DC days and Malcolm Young. I think
Yeah.
I have a very heavy right hand. So I probably developed that, I think, from him. When you kind of look at Angus Young play, he's pretty heavy in his right hand. So I think I definitely developed that from him. My more technical, I guess, tremolo picking, your technique has to be good there. I think I probably developed that um, from guys like Dying Fetus, Cannibal Corpse. When you try and learn those type of songs, you just go, "Oh shit, my technique sucks. I really need to work on it." They're so it's very fine movements, a bit more wrist movement, or even like they call it kind of like the thumb roll type thing when you're doing really fast tremolo picking. Um, so yeah, it's been a bit of a journey, I think, with that.
Yeah, like whenever like aside from like Hetfield and Mustaine, when it comes to like rhythm players who definitely know how to like not only come up with riffs but be able to have technique, like
Hmm.
Eric Peterson from Testament would be in that. It's like both guitarists and Testament would be in the upper echelon of players in metal to certain extents. Of course, Tony Iommi, the godfather of the riff. It's like a lot of people when it comes to like greatest riff writers, you can't not include Tony Iommi in that conversation because he created it.
Yeah.
Um, of course, Hetfield, Mustaine, and fitting you have a Dimebag Darrell poster, he would be in both categories of lead and rhythm,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And hell, I would even argue Hetfield could, in terms of like underrated soloists. he's had like I think some Metallica fans often forget Hetfield had some cool leads, even though they were more on the melodic side, not so much to like what Kirk does. Like people go back and listen to like the first solos on Master of Puppets. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
he and Kirk harmonized, but then the solo by himself was James. And it's like that was my favorite solo on the song just because it was like very feeling and not so much about, hey, I can shred. I just want to be like compliment the section of the song.
yeah,
Other rhythm players that we could talk about that are highly influential. Rob Barrett from Cannibal Corpse and Malevolent Creation, and like you brought up with the thumb roll, he often describes he's got a banana thumb because he's got them hitchhiker thumbs. So it's like he plays like this, and it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
Jesus.
how? How? Um, Now, talking about your black metal background, so like who was the first black metal band you discovered that thought, you know what, I like this shit too?
It would have to be, I guess, the more renowned stuff, which would be, Mayhem, Emperor, and then I started moving into bands like Dejevil are actually my favorite black metal band of all time. Um, and then yeah, moving into bands like Sargeist and getting a bit more underground. But yeah, I guess it probably started. I guess when you first, it's like when you first find thrash. You listen to Exodus, you listen to Metallica, Testament. I guess it probably worked the same for me with black metal, and then I started deep diving into it and exploring. And again, there's a whole nother world there again.
Yeah, like, and was that also where it came in later, like after high school, of course?
Yeah, again, like I said, until I think I got into Thraxas, and then I surrounded myself in that scene of people, and making friends in that scene. And then you've got friends like, hey, check out this band. Hey, look at this, and then you end up sometimes you just end up going to random shows as well that you're like, oh, I've never heard of any of these bands, but I'll just go. Um, and then yeah, it's just this big like domino effect, and it just keeps going and going.
Yeah. Definitely like I was the same way. Like black metal was like one of the last extreme metal styles I got into. Like I initially hated it when I first heard it in high school, but of course after high school I started to dig into like more the early bands like Bathory and I guess if people want to call Celtic Frost black metal, even though I don't think they are, but I guess
Yeah,
Celtic Frost and of course Venom and then getting into the Norwegian stuff and the rest is history. Like I would often say, in my opinion, the most underrated black metal band of all time would probably be Shooter from Norway.
yeah,
Like
okay.
yeah, like that album, Desert Northern Hell, that's quickly become one of my all-time favorite black metal albums ever. It's just brutal, yet at the same time very catchy and little dissonant at times. Like we keep going back to that word we love so much.
Yeah.
Um, but one last thing before we wrap this up, considering it's getting close to that ending of the recording, but how did you get into your fitness regimen and like doing fitness videos and such?
Um, I guess it all kind of stemmed, I think, back when I was kind of finishing high school. I really got into my health being really important. And then I went and did, my degrees and that sort of thing to become a nutritionist and PT. And I kind of wanted to tie in my PT business into music where I could do the online format as well as still be able to tour and do that sort of thing as well. That's kind of how that all stemmed, trying to have the best of both worlds as well. Um, but yeah, I think fitness and health is probably just as big as music for me in terms of my life. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Like I remember, yeah, watching some of that stuff on your Instagram, and like I said earlier, I feel like it's like people. I feel like she would kick my ass if I did something bad, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. So there you go. Um, but unfortunately, that's going to be all the time we got because this is with Zoom. It's very limiting. But anyways, thank you, Alex, so much for doing this. Hopefully, we can do part two of this down the road, and hopefully, We can go longer and we can get more nerdy and maybe even do lists of stuff
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I am absolutely manic when it comes to this stuff. So for those who want to check out Alex's Instagram and also check out Thraxas, I'll try and remember to put links in the description of the video. But anyways, we'll be back hopefully next week for an episode where we'll be talking to Charlie Corin from Incantation and Morbid Angel, which that's going to be fun. But until
Nice.
next time, thank you guys for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet, people.